One of the keys to success in any business organization is having a meeting with your staff that puts everybody on the same page. Hello again, everybody. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And today we're going to talk about a staff meeting and use a specific staff meeting as an example and make it as a blueprint for how to run an effective staff meeting. So let's get started. Eli, as in anything that you ever do in business, you always want to start with the why. So what is the purpose of a staff meeting? Well, the first thing is you want to unite the group as a team. You want to share the vision and sell the dream. That is the company's objectives and their game plan for accomplishing them. And third, at the end of the meeting, you want to make sure that everybody is pumped up to accomplish that end as a team. Now, one of the keys to accomplishing these objectives is to have a theme that can be remembered long after the meeting is over. Now, one of the questions that people frequently ask after a meeting, especially the people that organize the meeting, is, was the staff meeting a success? Well, you know what? That's an impossible question to answer, because that's like asking right after the wedding ceremony, was the marriage a success? It depends on the follow-up, doesn't it? Did the bride and groom follow up the ceremony and love, honor, and cherish? Did the business entity follow up the meeting by continuing to sell the dream, by implementing the concepts and marrying them to actions immediately while the objectives were still fresh in everybody's mind? And finally, were the desired results achieved? Now, yesterday, I was invited to attend a staff meeting. Now, I had also attended the same entity staff meeting a year before, okay? So I had something to compare it to. And I want to go over the staff meeting, and they did a lot of really, really good things. A lot of good things, okay? They started off, they had, your traditional nosh at the beginning, coffee, whatever. Everybody was relaxed, sat down, okay? The meeting got started right on time. That's what you want to do. You want to start your meeting right on time, all right? Now, the first thing, this is a meeting of a library, trying to get everybody on the same page, working to get everybody pulling the rope in the same direction to maximize performance, to maximize adding value to the community. Now, the very first, essentially, activity that took place, okay, there was a mandatory movie that they had to show. The meeting really started. One of the things that this library does is during the staff meetings, they go to the different departments so that everybody can see that it's not so easy. This department does this, that enables you to do that. Let's go over some of the individual responsibilities that the people have so you can see what they are. All right, and yesterday it was the turn of technical services, their IT department. And last time I was there and they had an entity going over what they did, it was kind of boring, okay? They divided the people. There were about 50 people that work in this library, and they divided the people up into groups, and each one went to a different person, and that person would say what they did, and it was kind of like not super interesting. Yesterday, it was very good. It was much better than the last time, because what they did was they told a story. And when you tell a story, that makes things so much better. And instead of breaking people up into groups and one individual talking and then everybody moving to the next person, what they did is they had everybody in place, they lowered the lights, and then they started telling the story. And the story was how a book is born in the library, okay? I gave it a subtitle, The Facts of Life. All right. Now, what was good about it was that it was like it went from person to person to person saying, well, the book comes in, and to get it on the shelf so that the public can take advantage of it, you have to do this and this and this and this. And the general people there didn't realize all the different steps that are necessary to make it happen. So you got a nice appreciation for all the hard work that they do in that department. The one thing that I might have done was, especially since it was IT and we're sitting in an area with all sorts of computers, I might have started it off with a little bit more dramatic. The birth of a book in the library, and played the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey, all right, and then lowered the lights, all right, or lowered the lights first and then played the music. That would have got everybody's attention even more, but it was very, very well done. All right, that would be the one little dramatic thing that I would change. Now, after that, one of the things that they do is they have different things to do in the library. is they showed a webinar video. Now this webinar video was about 30 minutes too long. It was very, very, very technical. And my guess would be, now you know I'm not a technical person, I don't know very much about computers, so on and so forth. And I know younger people know a lot more than I do, but still, looking around the room, I could see people have their phones out, they were texting. It was kind of like teaching calculus to a kindergarten class, all right? Once they started the webinar, and it was a recorded webinar, so it was one that they chose. Once they started the webinar, it got to be very, very technical, very, very fast. And the other thing about it was, they said, well, this feature does this, and this feature does that, and so on and so forth. But they didn't really show anything that they could accomplish. In other words, they didn't say, here's a problem, and what we were able to do was to utilize this particular program that enabled us to go from point A to point B to point C, and this is the end result that we were able to achieve, that we no way would have been able to achieve it without utilizing this particular application. My point is, it was very, very technical for, in my opinion, looking around the room, a larger number of people, and it didn't tell any kind of a story. So people tended to lose interest very, very quickly, and it was not the highlight of the staff meeting, let's put it that way. On the other hand, later on in the afternoon, and I'm going to skip around here, I'm not going to do everything chronologically, later on they had another video that they showed, and this video, once again, it's a library, and a couple of people that was actually running the staff meeting had attended a seminar, and in the seminar she had witnessed a video from another library, and what it showed was people in the library and the workers in the library approaching people in the library with a big old smile, and that the people had individual issues. Okay, they showed 4 or 5 different people. I remember 3 of them right off the top of my head. Once again, when you tell the story, it's a lot easier to remember the details. Okay, one was a very young child, a little girl that's, you know, looking in the stacks, all right, and you can see the person come up. There was no sound. There was a little music in the background. There's no sound, and comes up to the little girl, and then the narrator is saying that the little girl was very interested in books on horses, so they showed the librarian helping her and take the book out, and the girl, big smile on her face, and it was genuine. All right, it was very touching. And then there was another young boy, probably junior high age, maybe a little older, that apparently was somebody that was bullied, and he's very kind of reserved and whatever. And the librarian walked up to him and smiled and kind of made him feel comfortable. And then the third individual was a homeless man that, you know, you could see was kind of, you know, reserved and so on. And the librarian came up and reassured him and made him feel comfortable. It was very well done video. Here's the issue that I have with that, however. It just showed the what, it didn't show the how. There was no sound. You couldn't hear anything. Now, that's okay if the library that was having the staff meeting is going to sit down individually and role play with the people that work in the library and actually show them how to do that. It's a very good thing to establish rapport with your clientele, with your patrons. However, if all you do is show the video, but you don't go over the how and you don't drill, practice, and rehearse, what you're doing then is you're assuming that people understand how to do that, and you know what happens when you assume. And I say this because in the past, the same library had a really good idea about having a meet and greet person at the door as people walked in, and they had people do it in like 1-hour shifts. The thing that made it so that it didn't work the way they had wanted, in my opinion, the desired results that they were seeking, was because they didn't sit down with the individuals that were going to do the meeting and greeting and role play with them and say, this is what we want to accomplish. Let me show you how we do it. Now let me see you do it. Okay, that's good. And then compliment the things that they did well, and correct the things that they weren't doing so well until they get to the point where they're doing it exactly the way that they want it done. It doesn't take a lot of time, especially when you're saying, hi, welcome to the library. You know, it doesn't take a lot of time. But if you assume that people know how to do that, you as a leader are making a mistake, because you can't assume. The simplest tasks, you always have to get regurgitation and make sure that you see, so that you know that the task is going to be performed the way that you want to do it. Okay? Now that brings me to one of the things we talked about was having a theme. Now, the final presentation was done by the director of the library herself. It was very, very well done. And she included all of the key elements. I'm going to go over all the really good things that she did because you want to emulate those. You want to copy those. All right? But let's have a theme. And let's make it a theme that you can remember. So how about, and this is just off the top of my head from intending it, how about making the theme as be a star at the library and use the star as an acronym. All right, so as an example, when you're approaching a patron, be a star. What does that mean? That means smile, target the patron, approach them, and reassure them. Now you can choose any other words that you want, but if you have like one word that you're using, and star is a great word because S-T-A-R are letters that have a zillion different words that you can punch in to, make the point that you want to make and create the scenario you want to create. Smile, target, approach, reassure, and then work with people. Some people are more outgoing than others. Some people hardly ever smile. You know what? Sometimes you have to work with people and say, smile with your eyes, smile so that you tell people that, hey, I'm glad to see you. It's showtime. All right? That's what happened. That's part of the deal of working at the library. Not only that, but when you're making other people happy, guess what happens? You yourself become happier because it's a reciprocal thing. It feeds upon itself. All right? Now, let's talk about another thing that they did before I get to the director and her presentation. One of the things you want to remember about having a staff meeting is that it's kind of like having a kindergarten class. I used to be a substitute teacher, and I did teach kindergarten class once or twice. And let me tell you what I mean by that, why I'm using that analogy. When you have a kindergarten class, the kids, they're ready to go a mile a minute, all right? You got to keep them controlled. All right, they used to have a tape that they would put around on the floor, and you go, all right, everybody to the tape, sit with your legs crossed. Your legs aren't crossed. Okay, I mean, you're building discipline, and you're getting them to follow direction, and so on. But understand that kids are, they can't sit still for a very long period of time. All right, so what do? Well, you have an activity where they're running around. All right, they go outside, they run around. They used to play a game called Hucklebuckle Beanstalk when I was there. The kids are running around, they're doing activities, they're pasting, they're painting, they're in the sandbox, they're whatever. All right, they're doing different activities. And then following those activities, you have a quiet activity where you sit down and you tell them a story. All right, everybody sit down, we're going to tell a story. Let's be quiet down now. And you take out the book and you say, see the three little bears, and you show them all the picture, and you get everybody sitting quietly. So you kind of alternate that type of a game plan where you have an activity and you have a quiet time. You have an activity and you have a quiet time. And adults are, in a staff meeting are pretty much the same way. You can't have people sitting forever and ever and ever. They get stiff. You gotta, it's like you need the oil can from the Wizard of Oz. Let's put some oil on them. Let's get them going. Let's get them loose. All right. So you want to have that type of activity. In this particular staff meeting, they did that. They did a good job with that. They didn't have, you sitting in except for that one 30-minute video that seemed to go on forever. All right, but that's my opinion. I mean, certainly there were people there that understood the language that was going on in that particular video. And like I said, I'm old. I'm not that knowledgeable on the computer. But like I said, I also noticed that there were a number of people that were kind of in the same boat that I was in. Too many. I mean, if it's a just small percentage, that's fine. But it looked to me to be a larger percentage than what they really wanted. All right, but anyway, what you want to have is those types of activities alternating. All right, now let's talk about the director's presentation. The year ago when I was there, just so happens, the theme was safety in the event of kind of a terrorist activity. I mean, you got to be candid. You got to protect yourself. This is a public entity. It's a big building. There's a lot of people. They have cameras everywhere. But you got to protect yourself in the event that some nut comes into the building and goes wild. All right. Now they have fire drills that they do, so they're prepared for that. But this is a whole different type of preparation than a fire drill. All right. Now the director pointed out that, what we're going to install, and you want to do this soon, because I remember a year ago it had been mentioned they were going to install these yellow lights, and they still haven't been installed yet. So that's something. If you say you're going to do something, you want to get it done on a timely basis. But she pointed out that you're going to install these yellow lights that are going to be flashing yellow lights, and when you see those yellow lights, that means get the heck out of there. Get out. It's not the same as a fire drill where, people go and they check to make sure that nobody's in the bathrooms. They check to make sure nobody's, put the lights on, and you don't want to draw attention to yourself, because what happens, what does the shooter do? A shooter shoots what they can see. This was pointed out beautifully, and it's a great point. You want to be out of the line of fire, out of sight. And so, to my way of thinking, the yellow light, what does yellow mean? If somebody calls you yellow, it means you're a coward. That's the clue. All right? Get out. Get out quickly. This is not a time that you want to sit there and, it just happens too fast. All right? And when people are congregated, that's just too good of a target. And this was pointed out to us. It's like you've got to take that kind of action. All right? Now, once again, let's go back to having a theme to make it easy to remember. Now, the director, when she made her presentation, used TAR, which stood for think, and she went over this very, very carefully. All right, think where the nearest exit is. Think where the emergency exit is. Go to a place where you're not going to see. Don't go down the front stairs. That's where they're going to be. Don't go to a place where we're going to be. All right, so she went over all of that stuff. So think. That was very, very clear. And then, to be candid with you, I don't remember what the A stood for. I'm thinking that it stood for action, take action. And the action that you took was, if you happen to be right there with the shooter, she pointed out there's two places that you could hit a man that are going to disable him for a quick second. Okay, one is the obvious one, and the other is scratch their eyes. That was a good thing. And then don't linger around to see how it, what the results are. Get the heck out of there. But just do it as a temporary thing. So the action one take is get out of there. And then the R in the TAR stood for run or retreat. And I remember that because it was repeated a couple of times. So repetition means retention. However, how much easier would it be to remember? Let's make it star, all right? And when you see star, it's like see the light, okay? When you see the light, then think, then take the action, then run or retreat. So if you can find a common theme that people are going to remember, be a star at the library, okay? So when you're talking about, that emergency situation, be a star. See, think, act, run or retreat. When you're approaching a patron, smile, target, approach, reassure, all right? Be a star. And there's all sorts of, and there are real easy letters to go. And then the key thing is, it's very much like sales. It's very much like sales, where the fortune is in the follow-up. Like we said right at the very beginning, you can't tell how successful a meeting is until you have the follow-up. While everything's fresh in everybody's mind, that's when you want to have your little meetings. That's when you want to go over your role playing. That's when you want to do it on an ongoing basis. Because if you don't do that, it's like going to a movie. You go to the movie, you enjoy the film, you're entertained by it, and then a week later you've forgotten all about it. So you've got to have that follow-up. You've got to have that follow-up. Now, when the director was making her presentation, it was very, very good, because there were essentially 4 steps that you want to use to motivate your people, all right? And the first one is to tell people, well, you actually do 7 steps, okay? You want to tell your people exactly what you want them to do. Second, you want to limit the amount of time or effort that you're asking for. Third, you want to share in the sacrifice. You yourself want to lead by example. Fourth, you want to appeal to their emotions, not just logic. People retain things that are emotional a lot more than they do things that are strictly based upon logic. And give the people multiple reasons for doing what you want them to do. Not just one reason, give them multiple reasons. And then you want to be the change that you want to inspire. All right, in this case, the yellow lights. In this case, hey, I care about you people. It's different from a fire. Get out. You got to do it now. You got to do it quickly. You don't have that time, like you would in a fire. And even though there's a very short time in a fire, you want to get everybody out. But it's like even much less when you have a shooter in the building. And finally, you want to tell a story. And there were a couple of stories that were told about, well, this happened and that happened and so on. And people retain those. And like I said, the director did a very, very good job because she encompassed all 7 of these steps to get her point across. And she did a very, very good job with it. Okay? So anyway, when you're having a staff meeting, you want to accomplish those particular goals. You want to share the vision and sell the dream. What do we want to accomplish? You want to go over the company's objectives and how you're going to accomplish them. And third, you want to have everybody, when they're leaving that meeting, pumped up to the moon, excited about accomplishing those goals. Okay? You want to have a theme that people can take with them so that they will remember the objectives that you want to be achieved. You have to take action immediately after the meeting to marry your objectives, your thoughts, your ambitions with action. You have to marry the thought with action. And remember that one of the most effective ways of getting your message across, business and sales as a parent, is to tell a story. And our thought for the day is along those lines, is an old Native American proverb. And I quote, "Tell me the facts and I'll learn. Tell me the truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever," unquote. And because we never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.